All right, welcome back. So we chose another route, also on Makuri Island, called Countryside. So yeah, we are, it's about 18 kilometers in total, I think. Well, no, 16, sorry. And yeah, so we'll see how this one goes. So we had the island hopper before. I looked out and back into Zwift to make sure that this will count towards the route batch. Also feeling all warmed up from the first 18k, so we'll probably push the watts a little bit higher. It's still not going to be a race or anything like this. We are still aiming for staying in zone 2 for most of the time. But you know, every now and then it's probably fine if there's like a little bit of a spicy section. So this one I think has some 150 or 180 meters of climbing, and it's again another loop that I haven't completed yet. I do sport the Makuri Island kit, which means that I should have been on all the different routes, or at least on all different sections. But you know, sometimes the routes are made in a way where they link differently to those different sections. And apparently, even though I have seen all of the roads, I've not seen all of the routes. So, or routes. Anyways, so let's see how it goes. So you see, you're feeling a little bit more adventurous now, and we start catching up with our ghost avatar, which is doing 1.6, 1.7 watts per kilo right now. So let's see. Yeah, we'll probably not beat any of the time because we would need to stay on the flatland loop, and I'm not quite sure if this coincides with the countryside loop. So yeah, I'm not very familiar with this with all the worlds and the different routes. But yeah, so let's see how this one goes. We are quite alone, not many riders on here. I think I just saw that there was maybe 4,000 riders on Zwift at the moment, where about 1,000 of which are on Makuri Island, or in Makuri Island, in the world of Makuri Island, 2.5 in Watopia, and the other 500, I think New York is another guest world today, where I still do also have some routes that I haven't finished yet. And yes, I know what you are saying. It would have been smarter for me to try to finish those, because on the schedule, Makuri Island seems to appear much more often than the other worlds. So if you have a chance to finish a world, then you should probably take it, because it's going to take another week or so until this world becomes available again. But New York Also has a lot of vertical meters, and today I just felt, since we are still recovering, again we have been negative for about a week now after our second time with COVID. Yeah, we are still trying to take it a little bit slower, and yeah, climbing is then maybe not ideal. So what's nice is that since we warmed up on the previous ride, we now essentially started our ride in zone 2 right away. So we want to try to keep it there. Having said that, we just started hopping over to zone 3 for a couple of seconds. I think the cutoff is 132 heart rate. So let's try to settle into a nice rhythm. That should then also allow for the heart rate to drop a little, because we are not really putting a lot of power out. So we're aiming for maybe 125, ideally below that, ideally as low as possible with the maximum power, but yeah, that will come with training. At the moment our training regimen is not very structured, so we are essentially just getting on the bike when we feel okay, and do a lot of like long rides, endurance rides that are mainly in zone 2. Then I made some workouts which mainly I did because I wanted to get out to Zwift, and I figured in a workout, if I can structure it such that I have high intensity efforts combined with somewhat relaxing time, that should get me up the Alps yeah, much easier. And it actually worked. So I think the first time I went up, I just beat like 1.5 hours and I was done. And then I made a workout that was structured such that I should arrive on the top below 1 hour 20, and that worked on the first attempt, so that was really nice. Then I made one that aimed at a time below 1:15, and that also worked, so I was quite pleased with that. And then I think I did that again one more time just to make sure it wasn't a fluke, and passed again. And then I made one that was supposed to go below 70 minutes, 1 hour 10, and it was perfectly made, but about 60% in, I dropped the water bottle where the lid was not screwed on properly. So I jumped off the bike. So I stopped on the roadside. I saw that the time was stopping, So I figured, okay, that's okay. So I cleaned the mess, went back on the bike. Shortly thereafter realized there was some more fluid under my mat that I'm using under the bike. Got off again, cleaned that. Then I saw some more puddles under the extension cord. Of course that worried me. So I went off the bike again and then finished the ride. And then it said, whatever it was, 120. And I was confused because the message on the screen was different, and and then I looked in Strava and did analysis on the ride and saw that my total riding time was 69 minutes and some 20 odd seconds, but it did take the time that I was off the bike. Unfortunately it took that and added that to the total, which kind of makes sense because you don't want people to cheat or to stand on the roadside for like half an hour, regain all of their strength, then sprint for another 10 minutes, have a rest again. I get that. But so anyway, so although the total riding time was less than 70, it was not as clean as I wanted it to have on Strava. So that will be the first goal for this year on Outdoor Zwift, to have like a clean run up to the KOM, Outdoor Zwift KOM, sub 70. And I'm again planning to do that with a workout where I usually do some longer segments at FTP, which at the moment is, it's a little shy of FTP, but so I try to do 240 watts for maybe 10-11 minutes and then have a 4-minute break and then do another 240 watts and then have some break, and I do 3 of those intervals, and then the second group of intervals is then a little shorter. It's maybe 7 or 8 minutes at the same power, 240 watts, and then the recovery time in between is also a little bit shorter. I try to keep the ratio between on and off roughly the same, and so I try to model it that I should come below a given time. So I made an Excel sheet for this. Maybe I'll share it at some point. And that one worked really, really well. So I was essentially on the dot with the times that I achieved. So I'm planning on continuing with that. And I think I can do that all the way to maybe 65 minutes. And to then get below 60, I think there's going to be a lot of willpower required and grit and determination. So I think for that one I will try to structure a workout for maybe 70% of the mountain and then have one rest period and then calculate for the remaining power, or the power for the remaining distance, or for the remaining vertical meters to be required to get sub 60 minutes, and try to hold that. So the FTP I did as a FTP test I did with this ramp test here on Zwift, and I didn't read the instructions before, so I just did the test. And if you don't know how it works, it essentially gets you through like 1 minute intervals on, or 1 minute sections where you have to hold a certain power. The power is set by Zwift and by your smart trainer, and as long as you're turning the wheels, you will be producing that power. So no matter if you're grinding or spinning, it will just cap you at that resistance or at that wattage power. And again, I didn't read everything about the test, so I started, and I think it starts at maybe 100 watts, and it's perfect because, or maybe even at 80, because you have like a long section that you can actually use as a warm-up. So there's no need for you to properly warm up before for this particular test. And then it gets increasingly harder, and then it will take the best 1 minute effort you had. So if it just so happened that you finished at, let's say 240 watts, and you finished the 1 minute and then you collapsed, then it takes those 240 watts and then applies a correction factor. And that's the part that I did not know. The correction factor for that particular test is 0.75. So it deducts 25% of your best 1 minute effort. And usually for an FTP test, if you do the 20-minute one, the way those work is you give your best effort for 20 minutes, and then the correction will be 0.95 to that value. So it will deduct only 5%. And yeah, so when I did this test, I went up to like, more than 300 watts, and I was like, I can't do that. Something is off here, because I was under the impression it would take, 5% or something like this of that value. I was like, I must have done something wrong. And yeah, so I didn't believe that, and then essentially stopped earlier than what I would have stopped at if I was doing this to exhaustion. And yeah, and then the calculation showed, okay, this was the power, and now we deduct 25%, and you end up with 240 or whatever it was, 240 something. And I was like, okay. So I think I could have cranked out a couple more watts, or another minute, or maybe even longer, who knows, which would have increased my FTP value by quite a bit. But that's just for you to know, so always read the instructions. And I should have just believed what they were saying, just go until you can't no more, and I didn't do that. Anyhow, lesson learned. So next time I do this test, I will definitely exhaust myself to the point where there's not a single more watt in me that I can put out. or what second I should say. All right, so there's a climb. It's about 2.5K long. Temple KOM. I do remember that climb. I went it up in a race once, and I think, I'm not sure if I was in a C or D category race, but I do remember that the first, I think it was very short, it was like a 5K ride, and it ended at the KOM. So the last 2.5K was on this climb, and maybe 2-3K, maybe 4 on the flats before. And I was flying. I was actually staying with the A group, going, I don't know, 50K an hour on the flats, staying in their draft, and we hit the bottom of the climb. And it was like me hitting a wall and the others accelerating. So that was quite funny, and that really showed me like there's a big difference between the flats and the climbing. And yeah, the power you need to put out is different. The weight plays a role much more. So, and I don't do any weight doping. So I think I started with 79 kilos, and then I actually went down to 77 at some point. But I thought, maybe it's not sustainable yet. So I adjusted the weight on Zwift and Strava and Zwift Power to 78. And and then over Christmas I didn't bike and had way too much food, and then got COVID. And then when I went back on the scale before getting back to biking, it was at 79. But I knew that essentially within 2-3 days of biking for like an hour and a half or 2 or 3 hours, I would drop that again to 78. So I didn't adjust that, but hopefully soon I will be able to adjust the weight again, hopefully downwards. So we are aiming at hitting definitely sub 75 by the end of the year, ideally sub 73, but it's a long way to go, so not quite sure if and how that would work, but we'll see. All right, as you can see, my heart rate was for some time above 130. So we are going down with the watts a little bit and trying to keep it below 130, because don't want to overdo it. And I have been biking in the last couple of days rather consistently. I've been doing I think on Tuesday I did some 67K, and then on Wednesday 25, yesterday 67, today we did 18, this is 16, so this is 34 already. If time allows, I'll probably do one more, like maybe 12, 13, 14K route to get just another batch. So we should maybe have 50 today. And then tomorrow and Sunday we'll shoot for 100. If tomorrow or Sunday, I won't be able to finish this, then it's fine. The last couple of rides, or the last weekend rides, I warmed up properly at, I think, 17k, and then only did, I think, 30 and 40 respectively for Saturday and Sunday on those long rides. Yeah, because again, didn't want to overdo it. The year is long, and if I push myself too hard now, potentially fall back sick or hurt myself more on heart muscle or lungs or whatever. Don't want to do that. So that's why we're trying to keep it below 130. And if that means that people overtake us, all power to them. Yeah. I think this was also one of the climbs that was used in the Zwift Academy, in some of the Zwift Academy races. Yeah, it's a little deceptive, but just saying, oh, it's just 2.5k long, 3.6%. It doesn't sound like much, but it drags on, and it has, like you see now, some 7% gradients in there. And if you don't pay attention during the race, then you have like a 7% section, which means that you have some sections in here that are, let's say almost flat. And if you don't accelerate on those, then you might lose your group, or you might lose the person in front of you. So climbs with a rather constant gradient, like Alpe to Zwift, it's essentially, well, the gradient varies, but there are very few sections that are where you can recover. So I would say actually no sections where you can actually recover. But anyways, so we're just climbing up here. I haven't quite paid attention to when we started, because then we could have looked at the total kilometers. I think when we hit maybe 4.5k, we're at the top of the mountain. Yeah, I'm not sure. Again, today it all doesn't matter. We are just going about our speed, doing our thing, letting the faster people pass us by. The guy who just overtook us with the green shirt, he's from a club called Vegan Cycling. They sport this big V on their jersey, which I think is very smart and seems to be like a very nice club. Also participating in lots of races, also having very, very strong riders. From when I looked on Zwift Power. Time to drink something. So we still seem to be ahead of our Ghost Rider, who's like 5 seconds behind us. So if I see something like this, then of course I will try to stay ahead of myself and get a new PB. And on the top right you can see the map, and we can already see the finish line in the far distance. So, and this is a 0% section, so you can actually speed up a little bit. Looks like maybe less than a K to go. Oh, 550 meters left. Doesn't look that much on the map. I think after the next bend there's another flat section. So let's try to keep with him. Yeah, now we're definitely in zone 3. Okay, less than 400 meters. So at least we distanced our other 2 compatriots that we had on the climb up here. Shaw and I don't know who the other one was. Maybe it was Deseo. Not sure. All right, flat finish. Still above 15 minutes. So four and a half K left, and we get another aero boost, which is nice. It's going to help us on the flats. So now it's time to go downhill. No need to keep pushing the pedals. 4K left. Okay, so heart rate, come on down. So let's see if we can speed up to beyond 58K. Then we can make use of the super tuck. It's going to be tough on this gravel section with the road bike. And we are back to zone 2. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, one of the reasons why I'm actually going on the bike today and doing more than I wanted to is because I have another dinner with some friends tonight. One of my co-workers is leaving China, and yeah, today will be the first day of many, I assume, where we'll celebrate the time he had here and wish him all the best for the next chapter in his life. He was born in Russia but has a Canadian passport, so he goes back to Canada, and yeah, I'm sure he's going to be fine, but it's always nice to celebrate the time you spend together. He joined the company a month after me, and I just had my 5-year or my 5-year anniversary, and yeah, so he has been here for almost 5 years. When he will leave, he will actually have exactly 5 years, and yeah, it's a long time in your life. It's definitely worth it to celebrate this a little. All right, so I think from here it's just downhill, I would assume, which means that, yeah, as I said at the beginning, I was pretty much bang on. I said 150 to 180k meters vertical, and this is what we're having right now. And what time is it? 3:45. Yeah, if I find another short route that I haven't completed yet, I will jump on another one. But yeah, for now let's just enjoy the last K. Can actually use our power up in a second when we're back on the flats. So let's just deploy that. Spread some love. So 58. So All right. So this should be the route. Hopefully we'll get the badge. Let's see. And we do. Countryside Tour. Perfect. All right, then thank you very much. And I will see you in the next one.